Welcome to Elevation in Action, Trauma, Truth, and Transformation, where we explore the experiences that shape us, challenge us, and ultimately help us rise. Let me ask you a question. How much of your life has been spent trying to earn something that should have been freely given? For many fatherless daughters, the answer is more than they realize. The longing to be seen, the desire to be chosen, the need to prove your worth, the hope that if you perform well enough, achieve enough, or become enough, someone will finally stay. Today, we're discussing a reality that impacts more than 18 million children across America and approximately 1 in 4 households, the absence of a father in the home. Research shows that fatherlessness is linked to an increasing risk of poverty, depression, behavioral challenges, and relationship difficulties. For daughters, the impact often reaches deeper into identity, self worth, trust, and emotional security. Joining us today is Dr. Alicia Harris, who courageously shares her journey as a fatherless daughter. Together, we'll explore how absence can create emotional deficits, how pain can become projected into faith, and now how healing begins, performing acceptance, and start embracing your worth. This is more than a conversation about fatherlessness. It's a conversation about identity, healing, self-love, and elevation. So join me in welcoming Dr. Alicia Harris to the stage. Dr. Harris.
Good evening.
Good
How are
evening,
you?
good evening, good evening. All is well. How are you?
I'm doing great, Dr. Juanita. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
I am ecstatic. If this big old Kool-Aid smile can't hasn't shown you as of yet, I am so ecstatic. I have been anticipating June. I've been anticipating our conversation, and I was, you brought some things out when we did our pre-interview, and so I am glad that we have finally made it to this moment and
Thank
we get
you.
to do a very deep dive into fatherlessness. So, but before we begin, Dr. Alicia, I have a question for you.
Okay.
One of the things I have observed since knowing you is that you can find some of the most amazing restaurants, no matter where you are. No matter where you are, there's a restaurant and you showcase all of this delicious food. And so the question I have for you, what is your favorite restaurant and what makes it the best for you?
Ooh, that's hard because I have so many. Now I'm not gonna take all the credit because my daughter, Vanessa Woodward, she is the best at curating the best restaurants. And to be honest with you, a lot of times I'm on Instagram looking at restaurants and I'm like, oh, I want to eat there, I want to eat there. But what I will say is one that most recently impressed me was there's a Cuban restaurant in Charlotte called El Puro.
Mm,
And ooh, you talking about some good, good, good. I enjoy Latin food, Caribbean food. Um, People thought I was gonna say soul food. I enjoy soul food too.
mm-hmm,
But I love the diversity in food,
right.
especially when it's good food.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have to say that's my most recent favorite. Locally, I'm one that I'm not a big fan of chain restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be really, really good. But what is it? Breakfast at Ruiz.
Okay.
That
Okay. Yes. Mm-hmm.
delicious. I enjoy that one too.
I have to say, I am a breakfast and brunch girl. Uh,
Mhm.
I'm not going to gravitate to the other ones. I'm there and it's okay for me. But when we're talking about a good breakfast or a good brunch location, I
Ye-
am right there.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
Well, the topic that we that you chose tonight, I want to start there because when we first talked, as I started out sharing earlier, the conversation was so rich because as soon as I asked you, what is it that impacted you both, physically and mentally and elevated you in such a way that transformed your life, you immediately said fatherless daughter.
Hmm.
Can you give me a little insight into why choosing that title was so important? Why it's jumped out at you?
I think when we had that conversation, I was just on the heels of completing the Fatherless Daughter certification training that Angela Carr Patterson has created. And it really helped me put language to what I experienced growing up as a young girl. I knew who my father was and even engaged with him on several occasions, but there was not that emotional connection there. And due to that, now I can trace back in my life reasons why I performed, and I say performed in quotation marks, the way
Mhm.
that I did, and the way that I showed up, and the way that I viewed myself, and the way I allowed others to view and treat me. So that really had hit home, and
Mhm.
I was still processing my own stuff when we had that conversation.
The word, what jumped out at me when you share, as you were sharing, was language for those emotions that you were feeling.
Hmm.
And so, what that means to those that are listening in, um, when you cannot identify what is going on with you, then immediately you just feel a sense of emptiness. And emptiness is probably the one word that you can describe, or, in that performative state, it's what does my identity look like? And
Hmm.
so language means I need to be able to name it. And so
Right.
therefore there was no form of naming that was taking place. And that awakening was the course that was completed by
Hmm.
Angela Carr Patterson. Am I correct? I'm about to say
Yes.
Dr. Carr Patterson. Am I right or wrong? I don't know. But Angela Carr Patterson. And yes, I am going to
Hmm.
shout her out a few times.
Yes.
People that have been through her program, and it has been very effective. And so I believe in
Hmm.
sharing information, no matter what. On my platform, I believe in sharing information. Let me put it like that. It's very important for
Hmm.
us to connect with sources, credible sources that are going to help us in those spaces that we may need. So, okay, that was our 10-minute plug, our 2-second plug. So let's go
Yes.
back in here. Staying with emotions, how did there, going back to that emptiness and those emotions, describe what that was like, those emotions truly felt like from you, with from the perspective of attachment patterns.
You know, there was a deep yearning. I even as a little girl, I just remember um wanting that closeness with my dad, right? Seeing friends who were close to their dads and wondering why wasn't I afforded that particular opportunity. um, that void just seemed to never be filled. It was like endless, no matter what I tried to put in that place, whether it was relationships, uh, things, food, no matter what it was still there, reminding me of what I did not have. So I spent quite a bit of my time seeking the approval of men,
Mhm.
which didn't always work to my benefit because I found myself in abusive relationships, toxic relationships. I found myself, becoming a people pleaser, and I liken that to a chameleon. A
Mhm.
chameleon can change the color of their outward appearance to match their environment. And that's what I became. If you needed the outgoing Alicia, that was me. If you needed the quiet Alicia, that was me. If you needed the angry Alicia, I was your girl, and I did all those things thinking, okay, now I'm going to be accepted. If you needed the academic Alicia that won all the awards and was on the dean's list and the 4.0 and all the things, I was that person because I felt like if I win this award, surely he's going to show up. If I graduate at the top of my class, although I had a child at 17, I still came back and graduated, in a high number of my class in high school. And nothing I did made him come. And so
Mhm.
I had to realize that, and it took me a long time and a lot of heartache before I came to that understanding.
You are listening to Dr. Alicia Harris, and she is sharing about fatherless daughters. And so, as we prepare to move forward, Dr. Alicia, one of the things you mentioned to me was emotional detachment, which you kind of touched bases on just briefly now. Um, how did how did that emotional detach protect you in times that you felt afraid or scared or you know going through any forms of abuse?
There were times, especially in my abusive marriage, where I just went numb. Um, the brain, and this, Dr. Juanita, it's a very complex organ in our body, but it has a way of protecting you in the midst of trauma, or if you've been through trauma, it will help you, I want to say, suppress um, certain situations and instances, because I think if I did not know how to become numb, I probably would have had a nervous breakdown. I probably would not have been sitting here today as Dr. Anybody, to be honest. So I had to get to a point where I did not allow myself to feel. And that was the way I coped in that particular season of my life.
Most daughters have a tendency of have that longing for a father-like figure. Did you
Hmm.
have a father-like figure in your life that gave you the assurance of what a good father should look like?
Unfortunately, no, I did not. Now, one man that was very instrumental in my life was my principal, Joe Clark. So I went to Eastside High. Joe Clark was my principal, and to this day, the word expeditiously does something to me whenever I hear it. But he knew all of our names. I mean, every
Mhm.
last student. But I got a chance to engage with him in a situation that I was going through my senior year in high school. And, I always looked up to him because he was a huge proponent of education, and my mother used to drill that into me. One thing someone cannot take from you is your education. And that inspired me to continue through, different obstacles that I faced. But to say that I had a father figure in my life that provided that protection, that guidance, that love, I can't say that I did.
For daughters that may have been in the same aspect, let me rephrase that. For daughters who may have experienced life in the manner that you, without their father-like figure, what advice would you give them?
One, you are enough. I spent a lot of time internalizing the fact that maybe I did something wrong, and that's why he's not, you know, providing the protection and the care that I needed, and now understand that I deserved. So, one, you are enough. And two, he doesn't have to be your biological blood father to be a father figure.
Mhm.
Oftentimes fatherless daughters spend that time looking or requiring or expecting that engagement and attention from their biological father. But I have seen instances where the Lord will place a father figure in a young woman's life, in a woman's life, that provides that fills in that deficit, right? So it doesn't have to be, he doesn't have to carry your same last name. He doesn't have to have be a blood relative, but there are instances where women and girls are blessed with a male figure that loves and cares for them and covers them like a dad.
Absolutely. I wanted to touch on that because um, there are individuals who step up. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Lately, I've been noticing, in one of someone I'm connected to is preparing to host a male conclave to have conversations about, you know, about being a man, about showing up, about um, what that role should look like. Do you Would you say that society have an impact in this deficit as it pertains to fathers not being active in their roles?
I think society has played its own specific role. Yes. Um, when you think about Black men and their engagement with their children, there are a lot of great Black dads out there
Mhm.
who step up, who, you know, um, take on that role, embrace that role. My son in love is one of them, Jalil. I watch him with his sons, and he's just phenomenal. But when you think back to the 50s and 60s, and even further, when the welfare system was at its peak, and a lot of Black families were separated
Mhm.
because it was communicated that, hey, if you're on welfare, there can't be a man living in the home. So if you want care or support for you and your children, it's almost as if you had to make a choice. Now, today, that is not as prevalent, but there is something that is ingrained and that is passed down, communicated when it comes to men and how they show up. A man is a provider. He may go to work, pay the bills, or bring the money home, but he may not know how to emotionally connect with his children. So he could actually be in the home, and this is what I've learned in the certification. He could be in the home, but he's still absent emotionally.
Absolutely. I actually did a lot of studying up under Dr. Joy DeGruy in the slave trade syndrome, and when you start going back, just as you did, when we look at that timeline, there are a lot of
Mm-hmm.
factors in there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and as we normally say as women, hey, we can't tell a man how to be a man. And for me personally, with Grand Kings, I'm constantly reminding them, you know, this is something I want you to take to God and to understand what your identity is, and not
Mm-hmm.
to, but teaching those states of being a responsible individual. What is, what does it mean for you? How do you show up, and
Right.
teaching those little bitty things. But the other thing that I wanted to, and I'm going to kind of shift from this topic, but another thing that I want to point out, as it pertains to men, to our fathers rather, I don't see a lot of programs where men
Mhm.
can, like today, and I'm taking this from when you said, hey, back in the day, because I remember for me growing up, I grew up with six uncles. I had all of my uncles, I had my great uncles, coming from a farm. So I would see them when my uncles weren't in line, when they weren't doing things they deemed is manhood.
Mhm.
Those men would step up. Those men would, I've seen them several times hitting uncles on the back of the head, making, to make certain, hey, family better be taken care of. Your children better be
Right.
taken care of, and so that, form of male covering is not here today.
Mhm.
Um, what do you think about programs that men can go through? And what do you think that would actually entail for them as they are growing into manhood? How prevalent should that be?
I think it should be just as prevalent as the women's empowerment movement. We have huge movements, everywhere for women's empowerment. We have a big one here that happens every year at the Metropolitan,
Hmm.
Columbia Metropolitan Event Center. I myself have a women's movement. You do a lot of work with women, and there's several of us that are trying to assist women in becoming who they were originally designed to be, and empowering them to embrace who they are authentically. And I believe men need that same support.
Hmm.
They deserve that same support. I think about someone like Big Homie, Little Homie,
Yes.
um, and he's doing a great work. His Dr. Breezy Stroud, he's doing a
Hmm.
great work in catching young men while they're young and really filling in where there may be some deficits so that we don't have that cycle continuing. But it's going to take more than that. It's going to take more of Dr. Stroud's out there
Hmm.
intentionally pouring into young men, young boys, so that they can see that their life is, the sum total of their life is not in the school to prison pipeline, right? Because you have certain demographics of boys that are targeted for the correctional system, and we need more interrupters like that to stop that cycle and teach them alternate ways.
Thank you so much. I agree with you on that. Um, I want to go back to something you shared earlier. You kind of touched it, but you shared it more in depth rather with me during that pre-interview, and you stated that you projected your father's absence onto God.
Hmm.
Share a little bit about that. How did that shape your faith and your sense of protection?
I really didn't realize that until about a year, maybe a year 2 ago, when I went through my own personal journey of healing, right? And and I'm not here to argue the gender of God, so I know anybody listening, that's not what I'm doing. But in for me, in my relationship with God, I saw God as a man.
Hmm.
He's God, but I saw him as a male figure. And when I thought about all the male figures in my life, my dad, my husbands, different people, different men that I engaged with, the only thing I surmised from those interactions was no one ever protected me. No one stepped up to cover me. No one uh uh gave me that acceptance and approval and that care that I needed. And so when I thought about God and him being a male figure, here we go. You're just like them. And I know the word says God is not a man that he shall lie. But when your perception has been
Hmm.
skewed by trauma, your worldview becomes different in everything that you look at, right? So I started treating God like I started treating men. And what I mean by that, the young people, I don't even know if they use this term anymore, but they would say you just have to finesse them, meaning you get whatever you can out of them. Like Medea would say, I'll get you before you get me. And I took that attitude into my relationship with God because I saw him as yet another male figure. And God, you saw what these men were doing, and you didn't even protect me. So I'm going to engage with you like I will with them now because I put myself in the seat of I'm the only one that's going to protect me. And it wasn't until I went through my own journey of healing, inner healing,
Mm-hmm.
um, and doing that soul research and understanding the language to the emotions that I was feeling that I now looked at God and I had to repent. For me, it was about repenting because I projected my hurt, my betrayal, my feelings of not being protected onto God. And so that was something that I had to rectify within myself.
For those that are listening, the U.S. Census Bureau shares that roughly 1 in 4 children in the U.S. in the United States, about 18 million, live without a biological um, parent, step parent, or adoptive parent in the home. The United States has the highest rate of children in single parent households globally. Father absence varies drastically across demographics, affecting roughly 50% of Black children, 29% of Hispanic children, and 20% of white children. I wanted to share those statistics because it is, as we have been sharing, this is a very invasive issue here in the
Mm-hmm.
United States, and it's beyond just that father not being in the home. And what
Mm-hmm.
you are sharing presently is the impact that it has on that child, the
Mm-hmm.
emotional impact, the physical impact, the mental impact. It goes on and on. It plays numerous roles. And basically, to sum it all up, our fathers, in a sense, gives us our identity, would you say?
Right, right.
Mhm.
They're the first man that you engage with,
Right.
you know. And there's a special blessing, protection, covering that comes from a dad,
Hmm.
that is necessary. You think about God being our heavenly father, there's a special protection, anointing, and covering that comes from him that we need. And it does impact and shape our identity and our worldview.
Absolutely. Now, Alicia, you have a nonprofit organization called, make sure I get it correct, Be Beautiful, the Be Beautiful Project. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, the Beautiful Project is an arm under my nonprofit, which the nonprofit is Pieces, a Soulful Journey with Alopecia. And that nonprofit was created, after I decided to stop hiding hiding the fact that I had alopecia, which is a whole nother segment. But the Beautiful is spelled B-E capital YOU capital FULL, and it translates be you to the full, which is an attempt to encourage women to be accepting of themselves. We women are scrutinized so heavily by society, by our families, by, at work. And if we're not careful, we can lose sight of who we are authentically because, like a chameleon, we try to adapt to our surroundings and be what people need us to be
Mhm.
instead of embracing who we were designed to be. So that project is an annual project that I do. And it's not just limited to women with alopecia. It's for all women, no matter your race, ethnicity. Yeah, we do that annually.
Okay. And when you say you do that annually, what is it that you do specifically?
All right. So what we do, it is a photo project, and we have ambassadors. We have women ambassadors that we go through a full-blown photo shoot, makeup. So I want to shout out Keisha K, who does our makeup, and Onita Simpson, who does our photography and has for the past 3 years. And what that photo shoot is designed to do, it creates a level of sisterhood, camaraderie, and it's just a great way. You usually feel good when you dress up and you look good. I remember when my mother used to say, if you look good, then you feel good. And
Hmm.
most of the time that is true. And so that photo project allows women to see themselves and allows other women to see them in that particular space and time. And then we have a brunch where we unveil those photographs to the public, and the women are able to articulate their experience in the project. I've had so many women say things like, I never thought I was beautiful before. I didn't think I was beautiful because of the color of my skin. I was never told that I was beautiful. And all of those things, if we're not careful, can erode a woman's psyche, but can
Hmm.
all ultimately uh, destroy, if we're not careful, her self-image and what she values and how she values herself, which ultimately can translate to how she allows others to treat her.
You are listening to Dr. Alicia Harris, founder of Pieces, A Soulful Journey with Alopecia. This is a nonprofit organization, and at the bottom of on our ticker is information that if, as you're listening to Dr. Alicia, you want to connect with her, you want to donate to her nonprofit, I encourage you to do that. Her Cash App is at the bottom. Her givebutter.com is another way that you can give. I thought that was so cool. And so I encourage you to support her. Go to her social media page, Facebook, Instagram, and connect with Pieces, A Soulful Journey with Alopecia. That's there. Even her own personal page, Dr. Alicia Harris. I encourage you to join, invite other women, and I intentionally dove into her Be Beautiful program because of the fact that you could just look at the women in all of these beautiful gowns and going through the makeup process and the settings, and it's like, oh, that's cute. I want to do that one day, but it's deeper than that.
Mm-hmm.
Majority of us are looking for community. We're looking
Mm-hmm.
for like-minded individuals because each and every day, and this is the thing that I love to share with individuals, um, connecting with with people such as Dr. Alicia, it has a way of awakening you or connecting you with community.
Mm-hmm.
And the greatest part of that is everybody that you meet know something that you don't. That's a quote that I recite all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I want to, I'm a homebody. So sometimes I just want to stay inside and I have to remind myself, you go out the door, you're going to meet somebody and they're going to inspire
Yes.
you somewhere in some way, so, and I'm giving this personal testimony because of the fact that I have learned so much in the years that I've been connected to her. I have grown and I have came out my shell as well. And so as going to hear me say, I wanted to give her those roses and those kudos because there are not a lot of people who has that genuine heart, who has a love for people, who is, I would call Dr. Alicia that social butterfly, but she's a very educated social butterfly. And she is someone that you're gonna love to be connected to. So do me a favor, go to her social media page, join and connect with her. Tell her what Dr. Juanita sent you, and make certain you follow her for her next projects that are coming along. Now, as we move forward, Dr. Alicia, um, when we think about the word self-love, authenticity, and freedom, um, how does that shape us when we are suffering in that state of absenteeism due to a father not being in the home?
There are so many ways that that can manifest itself, and not all of them at first glance are bad ways, right? So I told you about how I became very performative,
Mm-hmm.
and what I mean by that is I couldn't just get an A. If there was an A plus plus to be gotten, I needed to get that. I couldn't just be on the honor roll, or be in the science fair. I needed to win the science fair. um I became so performative, and all of it, the underlying motive to all of that was, if I excel, if I do my very best, if I blow it out the water, my dad is going to show up. Because
Mm-hmm.
who wouldn't show up for a child who has graduated, in a high ranking number in her class? Who, in my mind, this is what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we think about that absent part of us, it shows up in the way we show up at work. you
Yes.
know um when you hear some women say, oh, I have a type A personality, I know I do, but I thank God that He has taught me how to temper it,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't have to perform anymore. I don't need to, there's no strings attached in what I do. What I do is I do it because I love doing it, not because I'm hoping to receive accolades and attention. And so you can have a woman that is that superwoman. She does everything. It has to be top notch. Or you could have a woman on the other end of the spectrum where she's very angry all the time. When it comes to relationships, they're toxic, they're volatile. So there's a continuum of different ways that that personality can reveal itself, depending on the level of either absenteeism or engagement that is had between a daughter and her dad.
Thank you so much. One final question before we transition. What truth does every fatherless daughter need to hear today?
That is not their fault.
Mm,
It's not your fault that he's in the home, but he doesn't engage or get excited about the things that you're doing, or the accomplishments that have achieved. It's not your fault that your parents did not make it. Although you wanted to grow up in a two-parent home. And it's not your fault that he is not in touch with his emotions, or he's over, in touch in terms of requiring perfection at everything, with everything that you do, which causes you to show up the way that you show up. It's not your fault.
thank you so much. First of all, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all of this valuable information that we get to share and are sharing tonight. I want to bring in, this is my Brittany, Dr. Alicia. Say hi,
Hey,
Brittany.
Brittany.
I at the end of each of our segments, I like to bring Brittany in and share with people, basically a little segment that centers on the brain, and you actually touch bases on it as we were talking about. Let me make certain I'm saying it right. Abuse, how abuse is stored, and you talked
Hmm.
about suppression. The biggest thing that I want everyone that is listening to understand is that the brain is constantly trying to make sense of our experiences. That is a
Hmm.
powerful thing to know, that our brain is trying to make sense of our experiences and our decisions. If you notice, Dr. Alicia kind of jumped from, how she perceived God to that performative state and perfectionism. All of those things is basically what she told herself in her pain. What
Mhm.
she told herself in her pain. And see, as I shared at the end of every segment, is there's a part of our brain in the back called the amygdala. And that place in our brain has a tendency of storing all of our information, and it becomes disruptive when our in within our limbic system, when that watchtower or the hippocampus starts sensing those emotions of sadness, of emptiness, the feeling like she wasn't enough. When all of those things started becoming disruptive, her brain did this thing called protection. And so when she used the word suppression, that meant that she pushed that information down. She pushed those emotions down. She pushed the stories that she's told herself. And what she did is, in her form of coping, she became performative. Perform
Mhm.
that perfection within the performative nature that she expressed. It gave her a sense of, would you say, Dr. Alicia, validation, which
Yes.
is, yeah,
Mhm.
the validation that she's searching for, the validation that affirmed who she is. And so, what does that mean for you? I want you to think about, what are the stories that you're telling yourself? What does that really mean? When Dr. Alicia closed out, she said, "You are enough. It is not your fault. You are not enough. It is not your fault." To change the narrative of your direction means you have to change the programming that you have inputted in to your brain.
Mhm.
You are more than enough. You are not, based on societal words, a fatherless child, because you were intentionally designed to be here for such a time as this. And so, Dr. Alicia, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing with us. Is there any closing words that you want to share before we um, close out our segment tonight?
I just want to say thank you. I thank you for the work that you're doing, Dr. Juanita. And we've known each other for quite some time, and I always appreciate being in your presence. But we have to learn to unlearn some things. And
Mm-hmm.
so, what you and Brittany are teaching us about the brain, that's where it starts. We have to have information so that we can make different decisions. So I applaud you for the work that you're doing, and I thank you for having me.
Thank you so, so much. Everyone, thank you so much for being here with us. For those that are here and who has listened in, and you may be feeling the things that we've talked about, please note above all, and I'm reiterating what Dr. Alicia has already shared, in that the absence of a father may have influenced your story previously, but today you get to change the narrative of that story.
Hmm.
You are enough. You were intentionally created, and there is so much inside of you. As we prepare to close out, I want you to take with you the love that Dr. Alicia and I both have, and know that here at Elevation in Action, True Trauma and Transformation, everything that has been a part of your story, a part of your journey, has equipped you for where you are going. So take that with you, hold fast, and have an amazing evening. Take care, everyone.